I never thought I'd pull a gun on a soccer mom in broad daylight, but there I was, my Beretta steady in my grip, the barrel trained on her manicured knee as her screams shattered the block party cheer. The crowd, neighbors I'd waved to for years, froze mid-hug, their red, white, and blue balloons drifting forgotten to the grass, while my wife's eyes widened not in fear, but in that fierce pride she saved for my undercover ops. And Karen? That self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac? She dropped her clipboard like it burned, her face crumpling from fury to flat-out terror, because in that split second, she realized the welcome home hero she just tried to sabotage wasn't just some jarhead grunt. He was a federal agent, and her little HOA tantrum had just crossed into felony territory. It started 6 months earlier, back when the American dream felt a little less like a trap and more like a picket fence I could actually afford. I just wrapped a stint in Kandahar, posing as a logistics officer for the Army, while feeding intel to the FBI on a smuggling ring that funneled knockoff fentanyl across the border. Officially, I was Sergeant Mike Harlan, decorated vet with a Purple Heart from a training accident that left shrapnel in my thigh and a cover story tighter than my wife's apple pie recipe. Unofficially, Special Agent Harlan, embedded deep in the kind of ops where one wrong whisper means a body bag. But when I got stateside, all I wanted was normalcy, a quiet life in Willow Creek Estates, that cookie-cutter suburb outside Raleigh where the HOAs enforced lawn lengths like it was the Geneva Convention. My wife, Jess, had picked the place. "It's safe, Mike," she'd said, signing the papers while I was still dodging IEDs in my dreams. "Good schools for the kids we'll have someday, and neighbors who actually say grace at block parties." She wasn't wrong about the grace part. Willow Creek was the kind of spot where 4th of July meant flag cakes and fireworks that didn't singe the siding. But safety? That went out the window the day Karen Whitaker moved in across the street. Karen was 42, going on HOA overlord, with a bob haircut that screamed, "I volunteer at the PDA," and "Judge your minivan." Her husband, Brad, was a regional sales rep for some HVAC company, always in khakis, grilling brats on weekends like he invented suburbia. They had a golden retriever named Patriot because, of course, and a Tesla in the driveway that Brad leased to go green, though Karen drove it to spin classes where she'd gossip about those renters 2 doors down. She wore athleisure like armor, Lululemon tops tucked into high-waisted pants, and carried that clipboard everywhere, scribbling violations like a parking cop on steroids. Fines for unapproved bird feeders. Warnings for kids' bikes left out after dusk. Once, she cited Mrs. Patel for cultural dissonance because her Diwali lights were too orange. Yeah, Willow Creek had that vibe, polite on the surface, but scratch it, and you'd find the kind of passive-aggressive rot that makes you miss foxholes. I didn't clock her as a threat at first. Landed at RDU on a humid June afternoon, Jess waiting at arrivals with a sign that said, "My hero's home," in glitter glue. We drove back to the house in her Subaru, top down, wind whipping through the tobacco fields that dotted the outskirts. The place was a 2-story colonial, beige siding and black shutters, the kind of home HGTV would flip for profit. Jess had strung fairy lights on the porch, baked a sheet pan of lasagna that smelled like redemption. Neighbors trickled over with casseroles. Lasagna neighbors, am I right? And I played the part. Firm handshakes, humble nods to my service, a quick story about dodging Taliban ambushes that was half true, half FBI redaction. Karen showed up last, balancing a fruit salad in Tupperware and that damn clipboard under her arm. "Sergeant Harlan," she cooed, air-kissing Jess's cheek like they were sorority sisters. "We've been praying for you. Willow Creek supports our troops. Flag on every porch, remember?" Her eyes flicked to our mailbox, which Jess had painted blue for luck. "Just a heads up, non-regulation colors start at $50 a pop." I chuckled it off, because what else do you do when jet lag's kicking your ass? But as she sashayed back to her lawn, I caught the way she lingered, jotting something down. Note to self: check the welcome mat for doormat infractions. The first real clash hit a week later, during what should have been my decompression lap around the neighborhood. I was jogging the loop, pavement cracked from Carolina clay, magnolias dropping petals like confetti, when I spotted Karen in her front yard, berating the landscaping crew. "That azalea's not code compliant. It's blocking the sight line." The guys, a trio of Mexican Day laborers in faded tees, just nodded and pruned harder, their truck idling with a Virgin to Guadalupe sticker on the dash. I slowed to a walk, wiping sweat from my buzzed cut, and called out, "Morning, ma'am. Everything all right?" She whirled, pearls clacking like castanets. "Sergeant. Oh, it's you." "Yes, well, these gentlemen seem to think HOA bylaws are suggestions." One worker, a stocky guy with a mustache that screamed uncle vibes, met my eye and shrugged. Silent solidarity. Karen thrust her clipboard at me. "See? Rule 47B. No obstructions over 18 inches. Brad says it's for safety after that coyote sighting last fall. Coyotes in Willow Creek. Please." It was a stray tabby that wandered in from the woods. I glanced at the bush, barely knee-high, and bit back the urge to salute sarcastically. "Looks fine to me. Appreciate you keeping the peace." But as I jogged on, I felt her stare boring into my back, like I'd just volunteered for her enemy list. That night, over IPAs on the back deck, just laughed it off. Karen's harmless. She's just bored. Brad's always on the road, and she's got that empty nest energy without the nest. Jess was a graphic designer, freelancing from our spare room, her auburn hair tied in a messy bun that made me fall for her all over again. We were 28, married 5 years, no kids yet but talking about it. Life was settling, or so I thought. By month 2, the welcome home glow had faded into routine. PT at dawn, Jess's yoga flows syncing with my kettlebell swings, barbecues where neighbors swapped stories about fantasy football, and that new Chick-fil-A drive-thru. I started easing back into work. FBI desk duty, analyzing chatter from my Kandahar contacts on a cartel splinter group eyeing the southeast ports. Cover held. I was consulting for a vet nonprofit, laptop always angled away for prying eyes. But Karen? She escalated like a bad sequel. I confronted her one crisp October morning, raking leaves while she power-walked with her pod of minions. 3 other wives in matching visors, gossiping about gluten-free potlucks. "Karen, level with me," I said, leaning on the rake like it was my M4. "What's the beef? We just got here." She paused mid-stride, adjusting her Fitbit. "Sergeant Harlan, it's not personal. Willow Creek has standards. Your gatherings disrupt the tranquility." Tranquility? The woman's ringtone was a wind chime alert. "Look, I'll keep it down. But the fines? That's crossing a line." Her lips pursed, that telltale Karen twitch. "Fines fund the community. Pool maintenance, holiday lights. You wouldn't want to shortchange that, would you? After all you've done for freedom?" The patriotism jab landed like a gut punch. Vets hate when civilians weaponize it. I forced a grin. "Wouldn't dream of it, ma'am." But inside, the old op instincts fired. Profile the target, anticipate moves. Karen Whitaker wasn't just nosy. She was territorial, the kind of bully who thrived on control because her own life was a beige blur. Jess saw it clearer. "She's projecting," she said that night, curled on the couch with a glass of Cab Sauv. We were binging The Mandalorian, ironic given my bounty hunter vibes, and she paused mid-episode. Heard from Lisa next door. Karen suing the developer over a fence height. And Brad's been working late in Charlotte a lot. Infidelity rumors? Suburbia gold. But I waved it off. Not our circus. Famous last words. The real powder keg ignited in November when I floated the idea of a homecoming bash. Not for me. My return was low-key. But for Tommy Ruiz, a buddy from my unit rotating back from Syria. Tommy was the real deal. Yodi Tech defused more bombs than I had close calls, with a wife and toddler waiting in a cramped apartment off base. "Let's do it big," I told Jess. "Block party style, flags, grill, the works. Invite the whole street." She lit up. "Yes, I'll handle invites. Karen can bring her fruit salad." Word spread like sweet tea on a porch swing. By RSVP count, 30 heads. Vets, spouses, even how the accountant promising Jell-O salad. We transformed the cul-de-sac into a red, white, and blue wonderland. Bunting from the dollar store, a bounce house for the kids, coolers stocked with Bud Light and RC Cola. I borrowed a flatbed from base for a makeshift stage, where Tommy could get his heroes due. Speeches, a plaque from the VFW, maybe a flyover if the weather held. Jess and I spent the week prepping, string lights, playlist heavy on Toby Keith and Lee Greenwood. It felt American as hell, the kind of event that mends what wore tears. Karen's response? Crickets at first, then a group text at 2 a.m. the night before. Unauthorized event notice. Block parties require 30-day board approval per Covenant 12C. Proceed at your own risk. Fines up to $500 per attendee. I stared at my phone in the dark, Jess snoring softly beside me. Risk? This was for a guy who'd lost half his hearing to blast waves, so we could sleep without checkpoints. I fired back. Appreciate the heads up. Board been looped in. Hal's bringing the jello. Lie. But Hal owed me a beer from poker night. Dawn broke foggy, the kind of Carolina mist that clings like regret. Guests rolled in by 10. Tommy's wife, Maria, with their boy in a tiny camo onesie. Lisa and her hubby manning the grill, flipping burgers with spatulas that doubled as swords for the kids. Laughter echoed off the colonials, the air thick with charcoal, smoke, and sunscreen. I clapped Tommy on the back as he stepped off the flatbed, his duffel slung over one shoulder, grin wide as the Neuse River. Harlan, you magnificent bastard. This beats Ramadi any day. We were mid-toast, foam solo cups raised, someone cracking open a cooler for the first round. When the screech of tires cut through Springsteen's Born in the USA, Karen's Tesla peeled into the cul-de-sac, hazard lights flashing like a cop show reject. She burst out, clipboard in one hand, iPhone in the other, filming live for what I assumed was a neighborhood Facebook group. This is an outrage, she bellowed, voice carrying over the playlist. Illegal assembly, disrupting the peace. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, murmurs rippling. Tommy lowered his cup, brow furrowed. Jess stepped forward, all Southern charm. Karen, honey, join us? We got ribs going. But Karen wasn't having it. She marched straight to the flatbed, jabbing her phone at the banner. Welcome home, SSG Ruiz, hero of the desert. This glorifies violence. And that bounce house. Unpermitted inflatable. I'm calling code enforcement now. Outrage bubbled. Lisa muttered, here we go, while Hal shuffled up, jello wobbling in his grip. Karen, let's talk this out. It's for a vet. But she rounded on him, pearls swinging. Talk. This is anarchy, Hal. Next it'll be fireworks, then squatters. Brad warned me about types like this. Heroes who think rules don't apply. The types landed like a slur, Tommy's jaw tightening as Maria scooped up their kid. I felt it then, the shift from party to powder keg. My hand drifted to my hip, where my off-duty piece sat holstered under the untucked flannel. Not loaded for bear, but enough to make a point. Karen, I said, voice low but carrying, stepping into her path. Stand down. This is private property, invited guests. You're trespassing. Her eyes narrowed, that twitch again. Trespassing? I'm a vice chair. This affects property values, our investments. She thrust the phone closer, zooming on Tommy's uniform. And him? Probably AWOL. I know the signs. The crowd gasped, betrayal in stereo. Tommy, who'd earned a Bronze Star pulling shrapnel from a buddy under fire, flushed red. Maria's lip quivered. Enough. I snatched the phone from her grip, gentle but firm, killing the stream. Ma'am, that's enough. Leave, or I escort you. Her face went nuclear. You threaten me? A veteran? I'll have your DD 214 for this. She lunged for the banner, yanking it down in a flurry of Velcro rips, the fabric pooling at her feet like a fallen flag. That's when I drew. Not to shoot God, no, but to stop her cold. The Beretta cleared leather in a heartbeat, a trained reflex from too many hot zones. On your knees, Karen. Now. The slide racked with a metallic snick that silenced the street. Balloons popped forgotten underfoot, kids wailing from the bounce house. Jess's hand found my arm, steadying because she knew this wasn't Sergeant Mike. This was Agent Harlan, and the op had just gone live. She hit the pavement like a sack of entitlement, knees scraping the asphalt as her Lululemon yoga pants rode up to reveal a tattoo of a wine glass. Ironic, given how dry her humor was. The clipboard clattered beside her, papers scattering like indictments. Printouts of HOA fines, screenshots of her Facebook rants, Even a dog-eared copy of Robert's Rules of Order dog-whistled with highlighters. "You can't do this," she shrieked, scrambling for her phone, but I kicked it aside, the screen cracking against the storm drain. Neighbors gawked from porches. Phones out now. Not hers, but theirs, capturing the takedown in shaky vertical video. Tommy hovered, fists clenched, while Hal stammered, "Mike, maybe ease up? Ease up." This wasn't a parking dispute. This was desecration. That banner wasn't just fabric. It was the thread holding guys like us together. The one that said, "You came back, brother." Karen had stomped it like it was yesterday's recycling. My pulse thrummed, not rage exactly, but that cold clarity from the field neutralized the threat. "FBI," I said, flashing the badge from my wallet, gold eagle gleaming in the noon sun. "You're interfering with a federal operation." Hands where I can see him. The word FBI rippled outward like a shockwave, turning whispers to stunned silence. Jess nodded subtly. Our signal for "I've got your six," and corralled the crowd back, her voice a calm anchor. "Everyone chill, folks. Mike's got this." But the damage was done. Karen's eyes bugged, mascara streaking like war paint. "FBI? You're lying. Brad knows lawyers. He'll sue." Brad. Speak of the khakis. His SUV screeched up minutes later, summoned by Karen's frantic neighbor texts. The poor guy still in his polo from a sales call. He piled out, guts straining the buttons, face paling as he clocked the scene. His wife on her knees, my gun holstered but authoritative, the block party devolved into a standoff. "What the hell, Harlan?" Karen called. "Said you pulled a piece on her." I holstered fully, palms up in that de-escalate stance they drill into us at Quantico. "Mr. Whitaker, your wife's disrupted a secured event. Desecrated federal property. She's looking at charges." "Charges?" Brad blinked, caught between loyalty and liability. He hauled Karen up by the elbow, her skirt hiked like a bad blind date. "Babe, what did you do?" She wrenched free, jabbing a finger at me. "He's a fake. Posing as a vet, too. To what, spy on us? That's entrapment." The crowd murmured, half scandalized, half intrigued. Lisa crossed her arms. "Karen, you tore down the banner." "On camera." Maria, clutching her toddler, added softly, "It's for my husband. He earned it." Earned it. That word hung heavy, a reminder of the invisible scars Tommy carried. Nightmares that jolted him awake, a limp from a blast that had shredded his convoy. I'd seen him pull a kid from rubble once. The boy's legs gone, but his smile intact thanks to Tommy's tourniquet. And here was Karen, reducing it to glorifying violence. Her voice cracking now, with that mix of fury and fear that screams cornered bully. Brad tugged her toward the Tesla, muttering apologies to Hal, who was live tweeting the drama to the HO Illist Serve. Incident at cul-de-sac. Authorities notified. Stay tuned. Authorities me basically. I radioed it indiscreetly, earpiece buzzing with dispatch confirmation. "Agent Harlan, back up en route. Keep it civil." Civil? In Willow Creek, where civil meant passive-aggressive notes, but never pistols at porch parties. The cops rolled up 10 minutes later, 2 local PD in a Crown Vic, lights off but attitudes on. Officer Ramirez, a vet himself with a Ranger tab tattoo peeking from his sleeve, took one look at my creds and nodded respect. "Fed business? We're backup." Karen, dusted off but defiant, launched into her soliloquy. "He assaulted me, armed, in front of children." Ramirez raised a brow at the scattered footage on neighbors' phones. Her lunge, my draw, the banner's fall. "Ma'am, that's resisting an officer. And desecration of a memorial? That's a misdemeanor at least." "Memorial?" "Yeah. Tommy's homecoming had morphed into that, the bounce house deflating like spent adrenaline." The party limped on, burgers cold on the grill, playlist looping courtesy of the red, white, and blue on ironic repeat, but the vibe was shot. Tommy pulled me aside by the cooler, cracking a natty light. "Dude, FBI? You've been holding out." I shrugged, the cover slipping just enough for trust. Embedded op cartel ties bleeding into the burbs. Fentanyl flips at truck stops. "Needed eyes here." His eyes sharpened. He'd heard the rumors, bodies piling in Durham motels. "Karen onto it?" I snorted. "Nah. She's onto grass clippings. But as the sun dipped, casting long shadows over the cul-de-sac, I couldn't shake the itch. Karen's outburst wasn't random. It was calculated chaos, the kind that masks deeper rot. That night, Jess and I debriefed over leftover ribs, the house quiet save for the hum of the AC. She's unhinged, Jess said, scrolling the Facebook fallout, posts exploding with insurance hashtags, memes of clipboards as weapons. But why you? Why today? I pulled up my laptop, VPN tunneling through FBI servers, and ran a quick trace on the Whitakers. Brad sales route? Skirting 40 ports where my intel flagged ghost shipments. Karen's volunteer work? Ties to a community watch group that sounded an awful lot like amateur sleuthing. Nosy enough to stumble into real shadows. Sleep dodged me, dreams blending Kandahar dust with cul-de-sac concrete. By morning, the backlash hit tidal wave. Willow Creek's group chat was a war zone. Karen's a disgrace, from Lisa. Overreach. HOA protects us, from a holdout. How calling an emergency board meeting. I suited up for the day, jeans and a polo, badge in the glove box, and drove to the station for a full report. My handler, supervisory agent Lena Vasquez, a no-nonsense Latina from the Bronx who'd recruited me post-army, chewed me out over coffee. Harlan, you drew on a civilian? In your backyard. I winced. Threat to op integrity. She was live-streaming Tommy, could have blown his post-mission psych eval. Lena sighed, rubbing temples. Paperwork's a bitch. But good call on the trace, Whitaker's hubby. His firm's got shell accounts linked to a Norfolk importer. Low level, but it's a thread. That's what ops were. Fragile lines connecting chaos to clarity. Back home, Jess greeted me with a kiss and a stack of mail. Fines from Karen's preemptive strike. $200 for unauthorized signage. I laughed it off, but inside, resolve hardened. If she wanted war, she'd get one. Not with guns, but with the quiet precision of a Fed who'd stared down warlords. The board meeting that evening was standing room only in the clubhouse, a beige box with motivational posters about community synergy. Hal presided from a folding table, sweat beading under his dockers. Karen arrived fashionably late, Brad in tow like a reluctant +1, her bob fluffed for battle. She claimed the mic first. Fellow residents, last night's travesty proves our covenants are vital. Sergeant, excuse me, Agent, Harlan abused his position. I demand his removal. Removal? From my own home? Murmurs swelled, but then Tommy stood, Maria at his side. Ma'am, I served 20 months keeping scum like the ones your husband's company might rub with off our streets. Mike's party? It was respect. You tore it down. Applause erupted, sporadic but building. Lisa piled on. And that live stream? You outed private lives for likes. Karen faltered, clutching Brad's arm. I was protecting values. Values. The words sour in my mouth. As the vote swung, suspension of Karen's board privileges, 14-3. I slipped out, dialing Lena from the parking lot. Pull the thread on Brad. Tonight. By midnight, warrants were drafting, and Willow Creek's tranquility? It was about to crack wide open. But Karen wasn't done. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived. Defamation suit, $50,000 demanded. For emotional distress and loss of reputation. It read, CC to the Raleigh News and Observer. The paper bit, front page teaser, suburban standoff, vet or fed, drama escalates. Reporters camped our lawn, mics thrust like bayonets. Jess fielded them with poise. My husband's a patriot, period. While I stonewalled, op security be damned. The controversy snowballed. Fox News picked it up. Woke HOA tyrant versus American hero. MSNBC flipped it. Militarization of the burbs, gun at a grill out. Social media? A circus. Cancel Karen trending with edits of her lunge set to dramatic scores. Counter hashtags from her enablers decrying anti-patriot bias. Tommy texted memes. Even my ma in Ohio called. Worried. Michael, you shoot her? Just scared her straight, Mom. Scared straight? Wishful. Karen doubled down, rallying her pod at a solidarity coffee that turned protest. Signs reading, HOAs aren't the enemy. Anarchy is. outside our house. Brad looked miserable, nursing a black eye from gym accident, whispering to a pal that Karen's rages were nightly now. Betrayal brewed, not just hers, but his silence. I trusted the neighborhood as cover, a bubble of normal, but Karen had punctured it, forcing my hand. Lena's thread pulled taut by week's end. Brad's firm? Laundering for the cartel splinter. HVAC shipments masking precursor cams, ports as drop points. He wasn't kingpin, just a mid-level mark folding under bonuses and blind eyes. We rolled him up quietly. Dawn raid. No sirens, cuffs clicking as he begged. Karen doesn't know. She didn't, but her watch group? They'd tipped off a mule once, thinking it was suspicious packages, nearly blowing my embed. The bitter twist? Confronting her at the station, post-arrest for Brad. She stormed in, demanding bail, only to freeze at the interrogation glass. There I was, suit and tie, laying out the ledger, her unwitting role in the chain. You almost got good people killed, Karen. For what? Property values. Her face crumpled. Not fury, but fracture. The queen dethroned, clipboard useless against federal ledgers. She lashed out one last time. You betrayed us, posing as one of us. Betrayed? From the glass. Her reflection warped, pearls dull, bob limp. No, ma'am. You did that yourself. As they led Brad away, her sobs echoed, the suburbs' harmony shattered. Willow Creek healed slow, new board, looser rules, but the scar lingered, a reminder. Even in the land of the free, some chains are self-forged. Winter clamped down on Willow Creek like a bad lease. Gray skies leaching color from the lawns, holiday lights flickering premature against bare oaks. The homecoming fallout lingered in every forced smile at the mailbox, every side eye at the grocery run to Harris Teeter. Reporters had packed up after Brad's plea deal. Reduced sentence for flipping on his boss, a Norfolk exec with Cartel Inc., but the neighborhood? It simmered, factions forming like high school cliques. Karen's pod shrank to two diehards, whispering over Chardonnay about the Fed invasion, while the rest of us vets and working stiffs bonded over brews at the VFW hall, swapping war stories laced with schadenfreude. Me? I dove deeper into the op. Lena greenlighting a phase 2, tracing the Splinter's retail end, pill mills masked as vape shops along 401. Desk work suited the season. Coffee steam fogging my screen, Jess's cocoa deliveries breaking the monotony. But normalcy? That was the real casualty. Our sex life amped up, adrenaline's afterglow, but conversations turned tactical. What if she sues for real? Jess would ask, tracing scars on my thigh. I'd pull her close, murmuring, then we fight dirty. Like always. Karen, meanwhile, unraveled in slow motion. Cited power walking alone. Fitbit abandoned for a rosary. Catholic guilt kicking in, or just boredom without her throne. Brad's absence hit hard. The Tesla sat repossessed in the drive, weeds creeping up the pristine mulch. She tried salvaging face with a tearful Facebook Live. Misunderstandings in our community, but comments roasted her. Clipboards killed dreams from an anon. Fire emojis from Tommy's crew. The lawsuit? Dropped quietly. Her lawyer citing insufficient grounds, but not before the NNO ran a follow-up. HOA hell. How one woman's war on welcome homes backfired. Backfired. Understatement. The revelation that Brad's late nights funded her Lululemon empire via dirty deals. Leaked via a Fed tip to a blogger, anonymous but pointed. Willow Creek ate it up. Potlucks turned true crime podcasts. Hal's meetings dissecting the scandal like an autopsy. We dodged a bullet, he'd say, passing the bylaws like contraband. I nodded along, but inside it gnawed. Betrayal wasn't just Karen's tantrum. It was the suburbs' complicity, the polite nods that enabled her reign. I'd come home chasing the American Idol, only to find it rotten at the core, facades hiding felonies, neighbors trading freedoms for fences. December thawed into a wet Christmas, Jess and I stringing lights without a permit in sight. Tommy hosted the sequel bash, low-key, his backyard, no banners to desecrate. Maria grilled tamales, the air rich with cumin and laughter, their boy toddling with a toy Humvee. To absent friends, Tommy toasted, eyes on the empty lawn where Karen's house loomed dark. Absent indeed. Rumors swirled she'd listed the place, fleeing to her sisters in Greensboro. But on the winter solstice, shortest day, bleeding into longest night, she resurfaced. It was a Tuesday, me buried in case files when the doorbell chimed. FedEx, but no package. I cracked the door, and there she stood. Coat over pajamas, hair unwashed, eyes hollowed like she'd mainlined regret. "Agent Harlan," she whispered, voice raw. "Can I explain?" Jess hovered in the hall, phone ready, but I waved her back. Curiosity or closure? 5 minutes, Karen. Porch. We sat on the swing, the chains creaking like confessions. Steam rose from my mug, decaf, post-op ritual, while she clutched gloved hands, knuckles white. Brad. He never told me. The trips, the money, it was for us. The house, the dog, everything. Tears tracked mascara ghosts. I thought I was building something safe. For once. Safe. The word twisted. Her safety had nearly orphaned Maria's kid, her bylaws a blind, Ida Brad's baggage runs. Why the banner? I asked, blunt as a briefing. She flinched. It wasn't a party. It was you. Always so. Perfect. The homecoming, the wife, the hero act. Brad came home broken, PTSD from his job stress. He'd say, "I envied you. Wanted to knock you down, prove it was all fake." Envy. The root of her rot. A green-eyed monster feasting on facade. I leaned forward. "It wasn't fake, Karen. The scars are. The service? Real as the shrapnel in my leg." She glanced at my limp, subtle under jeans, and sobbed. A gut wrench from a woman who'd weaponized whispers. But pity curdled quick. You desecrated more than cloth. You outed lives, risked ops that keep fentanyl off these streets. Off your kid's school if you had one. No kids, she confessed once. Fertility woes, the empty nest eternal. It humanized her, but didn't absolve. What now? I pressed. She wiped her face. Selling. Starting over. Therapy, maybe. Tell Jess. I'm sorry. Too small for the storm she'd unleashed, but it was a start. She shuffled off into the dusk, taillights fading toward I-40, the highway that had swallowed Brad's secrets. Jess joined me then, wrapping in a blanket. Forgive her. I snorted. Nah, but understand? Yeah. Understanding didn't heal, it scarred smarter. New Year's brought resolutions. Jess's yoga studio pitch, my op rapping with a bust at the vape shop, perps cuffed amid mango-flavored lies. Willow Creek exhaled. Spring elections booted the old guard. Covenants loosened like a bad tie. Tommy got promoted, Maria pregnant again. Life looped forward. Yet the bitter lingered, an aftertaste in every handshake. Karen's house sold to a young couple. No clipboard in sight, just a baby on board sticker. I'd spot her online sometimes, anonymous posts in recovery forums. I was the villain in my own story. Learning to let go. Villain? Nah, just human, fractured by the same chase for control that drives us all. Vets to foxholes, feds to files, Karens to clipboards. Me? I traded the Beretta for a desk promotion, Lena hinting at a field spot in Savannah. Jess and I talk kids for real, picking names over porch swings. Betrayal taught me. The real threats aren't overseas. They're in the mirrors, the manicures masking malice. Willow Creek wasn't paradise, but it was home, flaws and all. And if another Karen knocked, I'd answer the door, badge shining, ready for round 2. But wait, that wasn't the end. Spring bloomed cruel, azaleas mocking the mulch where Karen once ruled. A package arrived unannounced. Manila envelope, no return, postmarked Greensboro. Inside, her clipboard, pages gutted but spine intact, with a note in her looping script. You were right. Rules don't save. Burn it. I stared at the thing, relic of rage, then struck a match in the fire pit. Flames licked the edges, bylaws curling to ash, the smoke rising like absolution. Jess watched from the kitchen window, smiling. Clean slate. I nodded, pulling her out for a dance. Slow sway to the radio's country croon. Clean? Suburbs never are. But freer, yeah. Freer than foxholes, freer than facades. The American dream? It's messy, marred by Karens and cartels, but worth the fight. Every damn time. Or so I thought. Until the call came at midnight, Lena's voice tight. Harlan, Splinter's got a mole. In Willow Creek. My gut dropped. The op wasn't wrapped. It had just gone domestic. And the first name on the trace. Hal the accountant. Hal with his jello alibis and ledger eyes. Betrayal's echo. Round 3. I holstered up, kissed Jess goodbye, and stepped into the night. Suburbia never sleeps. It schemes. The bust went down at dawn. Hal's garage a makeshift lab. Precursors bubbling in HVAC ducts. Irony thick as the chem fumes. He folded fast, tearful. Karen put me up to it. After Brad, she needed cash. Said it was community investment. Community. The word poison now. Her ghost in every gram. We rolled up the chain. Pod wives implicated. The whole watch group, unwitting front. Willow Creek's core? Riddled, rotten from roots. Lena closed the file with a sigh. You were right to draw that day, Mike. Saved more than a banner. Promoted? Sure. But home? We sold the Colonial, traded fences for a farmette in the Piedmont. Acres of green, no covenants but gravity. Jess planted wildflowers. I built a shed for case files. Tommy visited Sundays, barbecue sans drama, his boy calling me Uncle Federal. Karen? Last I heard, cleaning group therapy, Brad paroled and penitent. Bitter end? For her empire, yeah. The queen abdicated, crown of clipboards melted down. But redemption's a long road, paved with sorries that stick. Me? I learned the hook. Pull too hard, and the line snaps back. In America's heartland, heroes aren't caped. They're the ones who holster after the draw, who burn the rules and plan anew. Fade to credits, or so the poster'd say. But life? No sequels promised. Just the next cul-de-sac, the next Karen knocking. And I'll answer, wiser, wearier, but wired for the win. Summer scorched the Piedmont like God's own broiler. Humidity turning our farmette into a greenhouse of good intentions. Jess's wildflowers thrived. Cosmos and zinnias rioting in colors that mocked Willow Creek's beige bylaws, while I hammered the shed into a command post, satellite dish disguised as a bird feeder. The ops mop-up dragged. Depositions in Durham. House trial painting our old suburb as a sleeper cell of suburbia. Media milked it, narco nest. How fentanyl festered in the burbs, but we dodged the spotlight, just sources close to the investigation. Fame's for fools. I'd take anonymity and sweet corn from the roadside stand. Jess bloomed too. Her yoga studio a hidden town. Mats unrolling for warrior flows that drew vets like me, chasing breath over bullets. We caught pregnant, surprise edition. A boy, due in fall, heartbeat thumping like victory drums at the ultrasound. Mike Jr., she teased, hand on her swell. Nah, I grinned, kissing the knob of her belly. Call him Harlan. Keep the legacy limping. Laughter healed what lead couldn't, stitching scars into stories we'd tell over campfires, not clipboards. Willow Creek faded to postcards. Lisa's holiday cards with pics of the new Open Covenant sign, Tommy's promotions to Master Sergeant, his family swelling with a girl who inherited Maria's fire. Miss your grill, brother, he'd text, enclosing pics of cul-de-sac calm. Bounce houses permitted sand scandal. Calm. The word tasted like truce, but trust? That was tentative, tender as new sod. Karen's shadow stretched longest, a vine I couldn't uproot. Post-trial, she surfaced in odd ways. A donation to the VFW, anonymous but earmarked for homecomings, enough for a dozen banners. Jess found it suspicious, atonement or angle, but I saw the scrawl on the check stub, her looping letters. Therapy worked wonders, or so the grapevine hummed. She'd gone clean, channeling control into counseling, volunteering at a women's shelter in Greensboro. Brad? Divorced, last paying had him in sales again. Legit this time, peddling solar panels in Phoenix, chasing sun over shame. The bitter? It crystallized in quiet moments, like dust drives back from Lena's briefings. I'd replay the draw. The Beretta's wait, Karen's crumple. Not with regret, but reckoning. I'd betrayed no one. She betrayed herself, her crusade a cry for control in a life unraveling at the seams. Envy's the great equalizer, turning neighbors to nemeses, HOAs to hydras. America, land of opportunity? Sure, but also of oversights, where the pursuit of perfection poisons the pie. Lena called weeks later, voice velvet over gravel. Harlan, you're out. Full desk, DC bump if you want. Out? The word echoed empty. A discharge from the dance I'd danced since enlistment. Jess voted nay. Stay close, Mike. We got roots now. Roots. I tendered the field, took analyst slot in Raleigh, commute short, cover civilian. No more embeds, just emails and evals, the quiet corrosion of casework. But quiet breeds ghosts. One crisp November morn, raking leaves like pennants, a rental Prius crunched the drive. Door opened, and out stepped Karen, thinner, grayer at the temples, but eyes clear, carrying a bundled quilt like an olive branch. Agent, Mike, she corrected, hesitant smile, cracking varnish. Jess, rocking Elias on the porch, tensed but waved her up. Coffee. Neutral ground. We sat at the kitchen island, steam curling from mugs, the quilt unfolded. Patchwork of camo scraps and flag motifs. Welcome home stitched crooked but earnest. For the next one, she said, voice steady. Or any. I learned to sew in group. Helps with the hands. Hands that once clutched clipboards, now mended fabric. A metaphor too tidy for therapy. I sipped black, gauging. Why here, Karen? Closure? She nodded, glancing at Elias's coup. And confession. Brad's mess? I suspected. The cash, the calls. Ignored it for the life, the Tesla, the status. Thought rules would hold it together. Ignored. Complicity's quiet cousin, deadlier than denial. Jess softened, maternal magic. We all chase control. Motherhood's teaching me that. Karen's eyes misted. No kids, the ache eternal. Wish I'd learned sooner. Ruined, good people. Ruined? Repaired, more like. The scandal spurred change. Willow Creek's covenants gutted, community gardens blooming where fines once flowered. Tommy's homecomings became annual, block-wide sacraments. Even Hal, post-prison, volunteered at the food bank. Ledgers for loaves now. You didn't ruin, I said. You cracked the facade. Made us real. Real. The word hung, heavy as harvest. She left with a hug. Awkward, but authentic, driving off toward whatever horizon held her healing. Bitter end? Nah. Bittersweet bend. The story's arc forgiving if you let it. Years folded like that quilt. Elias toddling trails, Jess's studio a sanctuary, my desk yielding to dogwoods. Willow Creek. A memory. Visited for barbecues, ghosts banished to group chats. Betrayal's lesson etched deep. The first-person saga's not revenge, but reckoning. With selves, with suburbs, with the serpents in our gardens. And if another Karen calls, I'll answer open, badge holstered, coffee brewing. Because in America's messy middle, the hook's not the draw. It's the hand extended after. The one that says, come home. We got room. Fade out on laughter. Fireflies winking like stars earned. Heroes return? Every damn day.